agreements. We have contracts with our vendors. We have contracts with our customers as well. Right? So the contractual agreements under which an organization hands over control of part or all the functions of the IS department to an external party. That contractual agreement will contain all the information related to your legal, your statement of what kind of services you would be providing, what kind of data information you would be handling, how what data your vendor will have access to, and what all regulatory requirements or security requirements are required by vendor to comply with. All this information will be under contractual agreements. And who reviews the contractual agreements? From operation perspective, operational team will review it, but from information security perspective, information security team or auditors will, internal auditors can also review it. The most important thing the IS auditor must be aware of.
In my experience, contracts were always reviewed either by the legal teams or the mainly procurement teams, and if required, then they would consult legal teams. It would never come to operation people or other people.
No, it will come.
I'm not seeing that.
It will come. I had a contract governance team within my organization in my present role. So we do review each and every contract, each and every vendor contract or client contract that comes to us. I do it from information security viewpoint. Operational team do it from operations viewpoint. Legal team review it from
It is a very good practice. It is actually a very good practice. In one of my recent assignments, we faced a big time issue just because the sourcing team were not actually aware of the original operations to be taken care of, and they missed some important things within the contract, both ways, with the client as well as with the outsourcing party to which we sublet the job.
Correct.
It has become a big mess because nobody from operations was there while both the things were being decided with the client as well as the vendor.
So whenever you are finalizing the contract, whether it is with the customer, whether it is with the vendor, appropriate or relevant stakeholders should always be involved. If they are not involved, you are missing something. Right? It is not a good practice that you are not reviewing the contracts. A contract should be reviewed by each and every department within your organization, whosoever is in the scope. We do a lot of contract reviews. We spend months on reviewing the contract, sometimes 2 months, 3 months for reviewing the single contract. It goes in rounds back and forth with customer or vendors. So we have to negotiate on a lot of things. Customer will say, no, I'm not going to encrypt the data. We will say, no, you have to encrypt the data. Right? So if you are not reviewing the contract, then it's not a good practice.
Are you referring to the bidding stage or technical clarification stage,
Both.
or you're referring even after the contract?
Both. Yes, before the contract and after the contract also. Before the contract, after what once you have signed the deal, you have signed the deal with your vendor, right? Now what you will do, you will forget the contract, you will forget all the contractual obligations that vendor has to comply with. No, then contract compliance will come in picture.
No, at that time as well, what usually in our case, oil and gas, what happens is we sometimes have a blanket contract comprising of all the legal compliances and other sort of compliances to be followed. And when it comes to individual projects within that particular contract, then we go for scope statements at the beginning. We tell them that this is the understanding, that these are the things we have to deliver, and then we discuss with client. At times there are rounds of discussions around that, and we come to a conclusion that yes, these are the deliverables which are supposed to be delivered. So
that is fine, but
it
varies from customer to customer or vendor to vendor.
Or maybe to business to business, maybe from business to business.
Yes. So in case you have some vendors or you have some customers in Europe, obviously then the regulatory requirements will be different. In case you have customers in US, the regulatory requirements will be different. So we cannot have a blanket template for each and every contract. It will work for some kind of businesses, but it will not work for each and every business or scenario. Make sense?
Yeah, sure.
So these are just some of the advantages, disadvantages of the outsourcing practices and strategies that we have been discussing. The same thing has been put here in the text form. Outsourcing practices and strategy, globalization practices and strategies. We have already discussed. The IS auditor can assist an organization in moving IT function offsite or offshore by ensuring the IS management considers the following: legal, regulatory, tax issues, continuity of operations, telecommunication issues, cross-border and cross-cultural issues. So whenever IS auditor or IS person from information security is reviewing the contract, he can provide his consultancy services to the business and provide the feedback or inputs on these of the following. most of the contracts, whether it is customer contract or whether it is a supplier contract, the requirement of the audit reports is very common. They ask you to provide some of the audit reports on yearly basis. For example, some customers ask that you have to provide ISO 27001 certification on a yearly basis. Some organizations also ask for SOC 1, SOC 2 or SOC 3 kind of reports. So SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 is actually an independent audit that has been done by the third party organization to ensure that the controls that have been implemented in your organization are effective. So SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. SOC 1 is it's a test. It's just to check whether you have the controls in place, whether the controls are suitable and appropriate in your organization. That's it. It will not check for the effectiveness of controls. SOC 2 will check the design of controls plus the effectiveness of controls by testing each and every control, by doing the assessment, audit or assessment. SOC 3 is very similar to the SOC 2 report. The only thing is it does not include the detailed understanding of the design of controls and the test performed by the service auditor. That's it. Otherwise, there is no such difference in SOC 2 and SOC 3. The only difference is in the report, what it includes, what it does not include. Has anyone worked on SOC audit?
I have worked on SOC 2 reports, ISA 3402, because mine was a European organization, so not for SSAE, but ISA 3402. And they were very difficult reports. 6 months we had to work on that. Actually, throughout the year, we were paying a third party to do the SOC assessment attestation for us. So I worked for a number of years on SOC 2.
Most of the service organizations conduct SOC 2 audit.
They have to, otherwise, and I must say, because not many people, experts within the organization or outside, are very much aware of exact nature of the SOC reports. Even the senior management and the CXO level probably has not been able to utilize effectively of developing the SOC reporting in-house. It was very bad because we were paying $500,000 for one customer to intermediate consultant body to do the attestation for us, and which was nothing. It was eating away all the time within our operational team resources, and they are simply collecting it in an Excel table and sending it off with their attestation to the client. So that was a very poor way of managing for one client. I did request my management to look into getting this SOC reports for the blanket for all the clients so that they can utilize it same for every other client. But then again, I think a lot of politics goes into organizations, and people really don't want to look at the white elephant. So it was I worked a number of years. It was so easy for us to do it in house, but they never gave attention to my suggestion.
In-house means you want to say that you do the audit in-house? SOC audit?
No, not the audit I'm saying. What I'm saying is to work on the attestation by ourselves for all the customers, because this particular company to whom we were paying, they were doing only for one client specific data, and we had like 30,000 customers. So I did tell my CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, that this can be developed in house. For 2 years they worked on it, and the person or the director to whom he assigned did agree with my suggestion. But maybe there was some political pressure because the intermediate company probably, I don't know, probably was linked to somebody and they did not want that relationship to break. So I don't know. I parted ways with the organization and it's still continuing or not. So last 2.5 years, they were working to saying that they wanted to develop the in-house expertise in able to produce SOC 2 related reports open for attestation for all the customers for all our services um, uh, in a conservative manner, but it did not happen.
But you cannot do SOC 2 in-house. SOC 2 has always should be done by the third-party organizations. You can do internal assessments, you can do internal audits, that is fine, but you cannot attest something for SOC.
No, we can't attest. I understand that. What I'm saying is rather than getting attestation for one customer, we can get it done for all the customers, and we can only go for the attestation piece. And because we were already doing a lot of one customer, and I want to, none of the people who are involved from the operational team were even able to understand how it is different from the other audits like ISO 27001 or ISO 20000. How it is different, and even from this Big Four, because every 6 months PwC, Capgemini, Deloitte, they would come to us for different kind of IT audits. And it appeared to me the moment I landed into this particular domain, I realized that people are doing the same task through different channels, and nobody is looking for an integrated approach so that as you just said, even contract reviewing, you're saying you spend 2 and 3 months, but when you are employed or when your team is employed in with the job description, it is nowhere written that you have to 90% of the time will happen in contract reviewing. So you have to set the expectations right that people, rather than actually doing the information security related work, rather than doing that work, they were involved in producing data for different kind of reports all the time and answering audit questions. So that is something, that is one of the things you will find at the moment a person who is in operations, he hears an auditor has come, he is going to frown. He is going to be like, oh, come on, this guy is an idiot. I don't want to be a part of the audit. Nobody welcomes the audit. And I don't know whether I told you or not during my introduction. When I joined this audit piece, my vice president of operations wanted me to standardize this. I found that my operations department itself was facing 96 audits in a year, 96 audits in one full year. You can imagine how much waste of time was happening throughout the team.
Oh. So every organization has their own set of protocols that they follow in terms of information security. But what I have seen, the operational teams are least bothered about information security. They really think that these CISO guys are just here to create some issues and problems. They increase the problems. We are not here to increase the problems. Information security is a function that supports the business. Information security is a function that ensures that the contractual obligations are met, security requirements are met, regulatory requirements are met. There are no non-compliances. Even for one non-compliance, company has to pay heavy penalty. That is the loss. We are saving the organizations from those losses. But I know people, the mindset is a little bit different in India. Okay. Moving on to the next topic, cloud governance. What is cloud governance? Cloud governance is when you outsource your some IT work to the cloud-based organizations, cloud service providers. You host something on the cloud. So you transfer some data or store some data on the cloud. So that is where when comes in picture, cloud governance comes in picture. When you have some cloud-based vendors, obviously it's your responsibility to ensure that your information is protected. Ultimately, you are the owner of the data. So whoever is the owner of the data, he or she has the responsibility of ensuring that the information is protected. Sourcing practices, we have already discussed this, how you are outsourcing things. Performance monitoring and reporting and performance optimization. Performance optimization means to ensure that whatever infrastructure, IT infrastructure or technologies you have in your organizations are providing the value. They are utilized properly. They provide the level of satisfaction to achieve the business objectives. Right? So these are some of the methodologies and tools some organizations use for to check for performance optimization. PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. This is one of the self-assessment techniques and from ISO 27001. RCA is the root cause analysis. So whenever you have incidents, you do the root cause analysis. Six Sigma is used for the process improvement. IT balance scorecard. This is one of the performance-based tool that organizations use to ensure the things are in line with the investments, IT investments. Benchmarking is a process where you compare your organization with the competitors. That is benchmarking. What other organizations are doing. Sampath is having challenges. He is still not able to be here in the meeting. So anyone has chat with Sampath? Hello?
He left a message in the chat window. I'm not
Okay.
able to see to any slide. Let me as well exit. We'll try joining after some time.
Might be he has some other issue. I'm not able to see this. Tools and techniques.
Mukesh, sorry to interrupt. What was the last thing or the thing here as well in this sheet? Business process re-engineering.
Business process engineering, this will come in detail in domain 3. This is a kind of analysis that you do for redesigning some of the business processes. For this is also a kind of thing that is used for improvements in the business processes.
Sort of value engineering. Got it.
Yeah.
I was familiar with all other terms, but I thought I'm not very much clear about this. Okay.
So this is also a kind of
business process re-engineering happens. Normally, business process re-engineering happens, Vishal, whenever a new leader joins. So, for example, if your director IT has resigned, a new director IT joins, then he will say, become Atmanirbhar. That is business process re-engineering. Mission Vande Bharat. That is business process re-engineering. Okay, so he would just bring you the new wine in an old bottle, and you will say this is business process new re-engineering. So that is business process re-engineering. You and me, people at your and my level cannot do business process re-engineering. Lighter note.
Good example. IT balance scorecard. So IT balance scorecard, this is one of the this is an evaluation tool that can be applied to the IT governance process and assessing IT function and businesses. So what does this mean? This means that IT scorecard is a performance metrics tool where where you can have all the information regarding your future orientation, your operational excellence, your user orientation, your business contribution. You have each and everything, and it will help you determine how your IT is mapped with your mission strategies, measure and what measures are being taken, what are the KPIs, whether the KPIs are in line with the business objectives or not, what are the decisions that has been taken for the IT, what are the sources, whether process owners, business owners. So this gives you some high level of